Every Lego collector has at least one of these, right? The sets you didn't buy when you had the chance, and now they're gone, they're retired, they're twice the price if you're lucky, and suddenly they're not just Lego sets anymore, they're white whales. Call me Ishmael. And with that, I want to talk about my white whales. Take, for example, this set, the brick molding machine. I thought I'd never own this set. And then suddenly, one day, it popped up on eBay for a somewhat reasonable price. Still hurt, I'm going to be honest with you. I paid way more than retail. But you know, it's not available anymore, so what are you going to do? Unlikely that Lego will stumble upon another abandoned container full of units, just like they recently did with the dinosaurs. They didn't have them when I was there last year. And I'm kind of salty about that too, because that's also a retired set, right? Maybe that's your white whale. And that's what they are, not just the rarest sets, not even necessarily the best sets, but the retired Lego sets that still elude me and you. The ones we still check often on BrickLink, on eBay, on Facebook Marketplace, way too often, if I'm being perfectly honest. Some are realistic, some of them really aren't, and a few are just painful. Because a white whale isn't just about the price, right? It's about timing. It's about that moment when you could have bought it, but didn't. And now you're stuck remembering that version of the price forever. Or you just weren't into Lego at the time. I know I missed some great sets and I had to go back and buy them. But this hunt, right, this is an enjoyable part of the hobby. A lot of people think that Lego buying and Lego building are two separate activities. And in many ways, I would agree. The chase is better than the hunt. And you get to discover a world you weren't familiar with before. You get a glimpse into past design processes in Lego. Some you might like, some you won't. And that's okay, if it weren't for some of these prices. Anyway, I've realized that my white whales fall into certain categories. Yours probably do too, right? There's the everybody wants that tier, or the nice to have category. There's deeply personal sets. We'll talk about those as well. And then there's Batman. But we'll start with the obvious ones, the community white whales, the ones that everybody and their mom have on their list. And maybe you could already make it out from the thumbnail. The first one is the Ghostbusters Firehouse Headquarters. This one is just iconic. A massive modular style build, tons of detail, a huge display presence. And with Ghostbusters, it's tied to one of the most beloved franchises ever. Come to think, I still need to watch that. It's the kind of set that felt expensive at the time, but now, with the benefit of hindsight, looks like a bargain. This retailed for just $350, but came with a whopping 4,634 pieces and 10 to 12 minifigs, depending on your definitions. Slimer to me definitely is one. And adjusted for inflation, it still doesn't seem that bad, right? I usually see it for around 700 euros, but I have no idea if I'll ever own it. And the same one goes for this, the modular Lego store from the early BrickLink designer program. And this one is interesting for a different reason, right? It's not just rare, it is limited by design. Back when this was around, there were only 10,000 copies allocated to each set in the BrickLink designer program. So it's a modular sort of Lego store, made specifically for collectors, sold in a limited run, which basically guarantees long-term demand. I'm sure you, even if you have never seen this before, you want it now. And in this case, yeah, you didn't just miss a set, you missed a moment. I missed a moment. And right now, I'm seriously thinking about solving that conundrum, because it's up on Willhaben for 430 euros. That is the cheapest I've ever seen it before. So I could either just go and get that, get my 70 euro discount, or I could try to rebrick it and take you along for the ride. If you would be interested in that, put it in the comments. I'll tell you whether or not I lost an arm and a leg in the process. But we need to move on to flex sets. And I want to preface this by saying these are not essential, right? They're just very, very nice to have if you happen to have a Lego YouTube channel and you want to level up your background. We'll start with this TIE Fighter pilot helmet. It was part of the original Lego helmet wave and exclusively available at one retailer in your region. In the US, that was Target. I think it might have been Amazon over here. I'm not sure. I missed it. And I like to tell myself that had I been into Lego at the time, I might have picked it up. I think it looks super clean, and I think it's up there with the AT-AT driver helmet, which is also an amazing set I do not own yet. This might become a white whale in the future. I don't know. But I might pick this up, the TIE Fighter helmet, one day if I come across it at the right price, and then, just plop it down in the background. Maybe next to my new Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey, and this one is completely different. Cancelled before release, which instantly turns it into one of the weirdest collector pieces Lego has ever produced. This one is not just rare, it's controversial. Lego, back then and to this day, refuses to recreate real-life, current military equipment in their lineup. And then they noticed very late in the process that the Osprey is not just used for disaster relief. So late, in fact, that this set had already went into production. Too late, actually, as it had already hit store shelves in at least Australia and had sold a few units before being pulled. And that kind of story always drives demand. Like, I just want to get it because of that. There's one available for 700 euros on eBay right now. One day. But let's put flexing aside and get personal, right? There are a couple of sets, a couple of themes that I feel very strongly about. I really like Halloween. And in Lego, that means monster fighters. There are a couple of smaller sets I also don't know from that series, but I left them out since they're technically still relatively affordable and I could just get them if I wanted them. It's just that in general, I shy away from 4-digit set numbers, simply because I don't like a lot of the building techniques and design choices from back then. That said, here's the Vampire Castle. This is the big one. A huge gothic castle, all this vampire aesthetic, an incredible atmosphere, and it would basically be the centerpiece of the entire theme if it weren't for the haunted house, which I already own, of course. But if you seriously want to get involved in collecting Halloween and monster Lego, this one might be almost unavoidable. Just like the Ghost Train. And this one is just a vibe in and of itself. A haunted train, 3 glow-in-the-dark ghosts, all these bones everywhere, bat wings, and you get a little plane. The reason I have not pulled the trigger on this one is that I just don't like the wings. There are too many studs on there. I don't like that the yellow from the minifig bleeds into the torso, and it just looks a tad too classic Lego in some areas. But I mean, these two sets in combination with the haunted house, right? They just make the theme. I just wish there was a modern take on Monster Fighters X Hidden Side, for example, with natural skin tones. One day, that might be one big mock project. But while we're still talking horror adjacent, if you're, like me, a big fan of Stranger Things and you're trying to collect at least, all the minifigs, well, I'm sorry to say you have missed one. Here's Barb. Yes, that's Barb from season 1. But of course it was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and yes, of course it's like $900 now. I just found one available in Europe for about 970 euros. Yikes. This is probably the one I'm furthest away from ever owning. It would fit the collection perfectly, but as of right now, I'm gonna let that one swim in the ocean. And we'll move on to Batman/DC. I divided those into subcategories. The first one is painful. It's just one set, but it's the Bat Tank. And this one is just brutal. It's huge, I guess somewhat detailed for the time, and it's really, really ugly, and I really don't like the build, and I don't need a tank, and the Tumbler is basically a tank, but this one, I still kind of want that exclusive Bane head. But not for that price. This is not just high, this is absurd, right? This is where White Whale stops being exciting and starts being slightly offensive. I don't think I'll ever own this, and the LEGO Dimensions Bane, I showed you that before, that's close enough for me for the time being. So here is the Batman DC subcategory 2, the maybe pile. The ones I might actually get. Let's start with The Dark Knight of Gotham City. This was another San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I'm kind of sort of glad that's over. At the same time, I enjoy the hunt. And this is a little diorama style build with the Dark Knight watching over his city. The exclusive part here is the printed 80 Years of Batman tile, which I'd really like to have. There is a damaged box on eBay right now for 300 euros and a sealed copy for 500, same seller. And I don't know if I want to get involved. It's really niche, but at the same time, it's really awesome. You're seriously getting into collector's territory here. And it's just rare enough to constantly tempt me. Just like the Superboy minifig. Now this is a real collector's piece, right? Not a big set, just 4 exclusive minifigs with only one of them being from a theme I actually collect. I had the chance to just get this set from Willhaben for like 600 euros a week before the prices for the Lloyd DX Ninjago minifig that is also in this set shot up. And now it's like 1,000. And I think I'll just try to get the Superboy on his own, right? This was a Target exclusive, and I don't think that many sets made it over to Europe in the first place. But those are exactly the kinds of sets that can quietly become very expensive over time. Unlike the next category, Batman DC subcategory 3, the ones I will get, no questions asked. Starting with Speed Force Freeze Pursuit. And yes, it's that CW looking Flash set. This one is all about the minifigs, especially the reverse Flash. It's one of those sets where pretty much all of the value is in the characters you get. On top of that yellow Flash, I think this is also the only set in which we get a Killer Frost in. There's one available right now for 150 euros, including shipping, and had I not vowed to not spend any money on Lego for 30 days, I'd pull the trigger on that right now. I also kind of sort of like Cyborg's little helicopter. I think that's a decent build. And so is Brainiac Attack. And this one is just classic DC. Brainiac's ship, the Martian Manhunter, Superman, Supergirl, and a Brainiac minifig. And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't have a Brainiac in the collection right now, which is, not surprising since this is the only set he comes in, apart from the horrible Mighty Micros version, which I do not count. The same goes for the Supergirl minifig. There is a variant of her with a ponytail in Dimensions, which I also don't have. So what's up with that, LEGO? Can we maybe in the future get some DC sets? Maybe for the upcoming Supergirl movie? But let's get back to the set. I love the ship. I love how it's so weird, so comic booky, so very specific for a superheroes Lego set, which is, exactly why I want it. It's up for 180 right now, and I'm just waiting for a deal. I really do not want to spend more than 100 on this, which brings me to my final thoughts on the matter. And that the chase is sometimes better than the catch, and quite literally so. I really wanted to get this particular set, this exclusive GWP, which is why I bought the Creel House on January 1st, but I still haven't opened it. I'm not even sure I will. So white whales, they're not just about rarity, they're also about taste. They're about the kind of collector you are. They're about what you missed, about the sets you still search for, about the prices you still check, and the decisions you think about years later, especially those that still haunt you. But yeah, these are mine, these are my white whales. Some of them are realistic, some of them really aren't, but all of them are still out there. But what about yours? What is your white whale? What is the one set that you still think about? Tell me about it in the comments, subscribe while you're down there, and if you like me, if you are still hunting, hit 'em hard. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye. Welcome to my ant card. This is just a hangout. Yeah, I'm a crank that shit. Bro, that's so damn loud. It's nothing but a little intermission. Enjoy these soothing bars of utter indecision. Buddy people, you can trust me. It's an ant card. I know all those fire jokes and get you saying hard. It's an ant card. This shit ain't some voodoo, bro. I know you want to stay, but it's time for you to go.